Okay, so I had a little mishap last week and basically pretty much shot my prop. Okay, so you can see right here, I don't know how it's going to show up in the video, but I have, this is bent up here, scratched all the heck here, it's got chips out of it here, and this side got the least of the damage, just a little bit, but it's up here. So basically this prop's, dust. I'm not going to use it anymore. But what caused it was interesting because I was going through an area that was a little too shallow than what I thought it was, and that was completely my fault. I didn't have my depth gauge on. I was going off my map. Bad idea. But I was also only doing like 10 miles an hour. I was trying to go kind of slow with it. And the problem with this boat is when I'm doing a low speed, it actually does this, okay? So it feels like it's doing this, but it's actually just doing this. It really just crushes that back end down, okay, a lot. And it runs like this. And when I run it up on plane, if I don't have it trimmed all the way down, it will porpoise. So it'll sit there and do this. And it can get really bad. In fact, as soon as it starts doing it, I cut the throttle down and retrim and try to make it better. And when I looked at the damage done to this prop right here, one of the things I noticed is it was like the bottom inch pretty much. It was like right here. Here's really easy. You can see a lot of the scratches, okay? So about an inch, maybe an inch and a half that this thing was actually probably hitting on. Well, maybe this, maybe a little more. But it wasn't really that much. And I was thinking, well, the boat wasn't so much like this, and it was a little bit more like this, it probably would never happen. Now, that being said, I feel that I definitely should not have been going in water that shallow. I should have been a little more conscientious. I should have looked at my depth gauges and not just had my map on. So that was completely my fault. I take full responsibility. That was my issue. Please don't do that. Bad idea. But I got to looking into what's causing these problems, because this is the first boat I've had of this type of size. I've always been in john boats or kayaks, so I'm still not familiar with this. And I got this last year, like I did a video on. And so, still learning. But one of the things that I found out in researching it is that if the back ends are heavy, it's going to obviously do that. No different than what a john boat would do. In fact, when I did my john boat to bass boat conversion, one of the things I did was equalize out the weight, where I put the batteries, where I put the fuel tanks, and that I never had that problem. This doesn't have that. I mean, both batteries are mounted in the back along with the fuel tank, along with a little storage container that I built, along with where I sit. Where I sit in this boat is actually, back of the center of the boat, so it's more towards the back. And the front end's pretty much light, just has nothing. So obviously that's what's causing the problem. And so in researching that of what you can do to fix it, besides just rebalancing out your weight, which is kind of impractical for this boat, they get into things called these hydrofoils right here. That's what I have installed right here. And what the hydrofoil does is, as the water, it works as a wing. So as the water passes over it, like a wing on an airplane, I should be saying, as the water passes over it, so it's passing kind of like this, okay, what it does is it creates pressure here, okay, and the pressure lifts the whole back end of the boat up. All right, so what it's supposed to do is supposed to get you on plane faster. It's supposed to be a more stable plane when you're on plane. It's supposed to stop that porpoising, because it puts more of the front, instead of your boat being like this, it's more like this. It puts more of that front into the water. The downsides that I've read about it are your top end speed might be a little bit slower. I'm not really too concerned about that. I mean, this boat only does about 25 miles per hour anyways. I'm not winning any races with it. As long as it gets me from point A to point B, I'm okay. I'm not tournament fishing up against guys with, 150 horsepower engines or more that can do 70 miles an hour. So I'm not in that category, and that's fine with me. So if it takes a mile or two down because of drag, I'm okay with that. I don't know yet because I haven't tested it yet. But anyway, that's kind of how these hydrofoils work. And so, again, the theory is we'll pull the back up, push the front end down, and that's why they save gas, because you're not kind of like shoving through the water like a plow, but you're more skimming across it. Other videos I've seen where people, filmed it, it looked like it was amazing what it was doing. And I have heard nothing bad about these, except for the fact that they do possibly slow down the boat. And it all depends. I've seen some videos where it actually increase the speed of the boat, the top end speed. I've seen some videos where it decrease it by like a mile per hour. But no one has gotten these on here and said it sucked, I hated it. Some people took it off because they didn't like the top end speed thing or whatever, but no one said it sucked. Everyone's saying these things really work good. So this is what I ended up doing. And just a couple things to point out. I ended up getting the SE Sport 300. And one thing that you have to do that I was a little nervous about is you do have to drill holes in your cavitation plate to mount it. And I was a little concerned about that. Now, one of the things, I'm going to move the camera here just so we can see what I'm talking about, because this is something that the instructions said was okay, and I didn't feel all that comfortable with it. So I'm going to kind of hit it right here. Okay, so you have, I think this is called the trim tab. But you have this part right here, which, you know, I've never adjusted, and basically I've been told pretty much when you have this set, you don't mess with it. Okay, so one thing the instructions said is they said, well, you know, it's okay to drill through this because you're probably never going to mess with it anyway, so why keep it? And I'm not in favor of that at all. So what I did is I backed mine off a little bit because it would have drilled through like right probably here and here, right on the tip of this thing, which I thought was even worse than drilling through it. So I just backed it off so I was going to clear it, because if this needs to be adjusted, I don't want to have to be screwing with this to have to adjust this. Okay, I don't think I'm ever going to have to, but that's the theory. So what I did is I just backed it up a little bit and I drilled them here and here and here. And there's a little gauge that they sent with the packaging, so please hang on to it if you do this, that you can put over there, and it will actually make you very precisely mark where your holes are because it gives you all the measurements. So that's something to just keep in mind. The other thing when it comes to installing this thing is that you can run the bolts either down so the nut is on this end, or up, which means the head's on this end. I did up. Every video I've seen where people have done it, they've all done up, and I think that's a good idea just because this is a lot smoother for the water to be traveling over on the underside. And the upside just has the nuts, and basically they're not too bad either. So the installation, simple. Once you get the holes drilled, it's just basically putting the bolts on. You kind of have you can't see in the video, but you have little rubber washers that go here and here. And again, just follow the instructions. It's super simple. It took me 15 minutes to put this thing on. And it took me about 10 minutes to put the new prop on. So everything's set back up and ready to go. My next step is I'm going to take it out in the water and give it a test. Okay, so I've had the boat out quite a few times since I've installed the hydrofoil and the new prop. And I have to say, I wanted to film it for everybody so you could see it, but unfortunately, it didn't really work out so well. You can't really see the difference. You really got to feel it. But all I can say is absolutely phenomenal difference. The boat runs a heck of a lot better. It's a lot smoother. It gets on plane much quicker, and even on the slower speeds, instead of being like this all the time, it's actually a bit more, feels like at least a little bit more like this. It's a lot more even the way it goes. And of course, as you plane up, gets up on plane. As far as top end speed goes, I think I've increased a mile per hour, if anything, or is at least exactly the same. Very, very smooth. And also I think that my old prop, I think possibly before I damaged it worse, I think I did maybe have a little, I had some wear up in here and up in here. And I think on the old prop, that was affecting it, because I noticed that my steering wheel used to shake. And because I just got this boat last July, I didn't really think much of it. I didn't know. And now I'm thinking, well, maybe the prop is slightly out of balance because it doesn't shake anymore at all. It runs real smooth, real nice. So all I can say about this hydrofoil, if anyone's considering it, at least for a small motor, this is a 50 horsepower motor, it works phenomenally well, because this is a very bottom or back heavy boat. And definitely gets it on plane, definitely rides. Everything's better about it. When I'm up on plane, the stability that this boat has and how I can control it is just 10 times better. To me, that's the way it feels, at least. It's like having a completely different boat. Let me put it this way. If of all the upgrades I've done to this boat, this is number one. If I was to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I'd put one of these on before I do anything else. So it's actually been that big of a difference, at least for me, in this boat. I absolutely love this thing. I wish I could film it for everybody, but it just didn't really work out that way. The way I had the camera in the boat, you really be able to see it. It's something you just got to feel when you're driving the boat. But if anyone's thinking about getting one of these things for their boat, and at least if they do have a smaller boat, again, mine's a 16 foot with a 50 horse outboard, all I can say is highly recommend it.